Welcome to the Chicago Home Partner Podcast. I'm Amanda McMillan. Along with my co-host Samuel Shahan, we discuss the Chicago real estate market. Our goal is to educate you on what's actually happening out there and how it impacts your real estate goals. Welcome back, Samuel.
Thank you. Did you guys miss me?
We missed you a ton as you were out there doing amazing things in the world.
I was gallivanting the 7 seas of the world.
I don't think I would call Ironman gallivanting.
It is. It's 13 hours of gallivanting all over an island, so it works.
Awesome. How'd everything go?
It was very, very tough, unfortunately. So, I mean, I was jet lagged. I had I swear to God, altitude sickness a little bit during it. And so it was just really difficult, but it was so much fun. I'm glad I did it.
I'm one of those people, you know this about me, that I think that it's our failures that teach us a whole lot more and definitely get us to more successful points than our successes. So
yeah, I learned a lot from it. So that's always the best thing.
That's amazing.
For the next one.
That's amazing. Well, we are super happy to have you back. We are back for episode 10.
And yes. So what have you been up to?
Everything.
Tell our viewers
Nothing.
What's going on with you.
We've been doing a lot of fun stuff. Obviously, we are in summertime now.
So the girls are out of school now.
Of course.
So they're home.
They are camping.
Oh, okay.
They are, and camping not as in tent camping. They are going to camp. They are riding their pony. They are swimming in the gigantic pool that we put into our backyard. Temporary one, not a real one.
I was like,
yeah, no. It's
near the fire pit.
Totally. It's next to the fire pit.
Good.
Some people have heard we've renamed our backyard Funtown.
Oh.
They have a trapeze swing that they can trapeze into the pool, not next while the fire pit is going. And they are. It's like 3 feet, but when you're only 4 feet tall, that's really deep.
Okay.
Anyway, so they are living their best lives. They are staying up way too late at night. They are driving us a little bit crazy, but they are having fun and being kids and enjoying summer.
That's awesome. And you have been traveling with them.
We went for our first ever girls' weekend away, which was a ton of fun. We've done it individually, but the 3 of us went away to Kentucky for a quick weekend, and it was a ton of fun. It was a really, really special time, and we had a great time. It was good to go, good to come back. God bless single parents that do that all the time. It is a lot of energy to keep 2 little beings active and alive. And everything else.
Even for 2 days.
Even for 2 days. But yeah, it was great to go and great to come back in and get the support that I usually have.
That's awesome.
So anyways, we should probably dive in.
We've
got a lot of things going on. First and foremost, we are on location and we are back at a listing that it blows our mind that is still on the market. We are back at our luxury penthouse in East Lakeview. This is a property that we explained to the seller in the beginning. The toughest thing about selling this property is that truly nobody knows it exists, right?
Well, at this price point, most people are looking at single family homes.
Totally.
So even if you're searching, you're not searching for a condo. So it does. Those are challenging.
And as we said, the person that's going to buy this condo is probably right now looking for a single family home because they don't know that they could have this condo that lives better than most single family homes, yet still gives everybody all the accessibility of a single family home. So it's definitely been a challenge. That being said, they are doing a major price reduction. And so in my opinion, it's going to be a heck of a deal. They're dropping the price $130,000 and it's a steal. It really is. We're back at a price almost close to what they bought it for 11 years ago prior to $1 million renovation.
So opportunity.
So on that note, let's dive in. We've got some really, really good questions today.
We do.
And we're starting out with a bit of a doozy. We're getting put on the choppy block right from the start. Casino, love it or hate it?
So I actually live a block away from the casino.
Yep.
And I had mixed feelings about it initially because I was like, do you really want that? There's a lot of traffic already on that corner just because of the bottleneck. But I think it's actually going to be a really great addition to the neighborhood just because right now it's just this empty piece of land. And so what would have gone there anyway? And they're going to improve the Riverwalk. They're going to build this amazing, beautiful building. It's going to have a restaurant in it. It's going to have the hotel. So, I mean, there's a lot of positives that I think will come from it. real estate is always really scary.
How do you think real estate is going to react to this? In your opinion, I know we're putting you on the chopping block. This is professional knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah. So we always talk about new construction being sometimes there's like different phases, right? So the initial is always the scariest part, just the initial conversation.
Yep.
And then when construction starts, that's the next like big scary moment.
Sure.
But ultimately, I think it's going to do really well for values. I think like the neighborhood on that side is very residential and it's very quiet part of River North. So it's going to be really nice to like actually get a little bit more traction and get more people into the neighborhood, because that benefits commercial space. Like right now they're building up Chicago Avenue. You're seeing all those like rental buildings being built. So you're starting to see like a lot of people just moving into the neighborhood, which is really kind of nice to see, especially after the pandemic.
Right, for certain. And yeah, we've talked about it, is that downtown is coming back, right? Coming back with a vengeance. People are excited to be downtown, the activities, summer especially, the Riverwalk, minus when we had that big rainstorm that seemed to wipe it out. But yeah, there's definitely a good pulse. I think you and I pretty much see eye to eye on this. I think long term, it's going to be a good thing for the city. I think we tend to get very worked up about things, right? And we, right now, because we don't know what it's going to do, it's easier to relate to the pessimistic side of it, right? It's easier for people, especially in the neighborhoods, to look at all the negatives that it's going to bring, because we just don't know all the positives. So I agree with you. I think long term, it's going to be a great thing for the area. I think it's absolutely going to be an improvement of what it was. I think it's going to bring in some great tax dollars for the city, which we are in dire need of, which is, I think, great. For me, in the real estate realm, and it's funny because we actually just sold a condo right down there that's going to face construction. and the seller said to us towards the end of last year, when do I sell? I want to sell. When do I sell? Knowing that this is going to be on people's minds. And my recommendation to him was that the toughest time to sell his condo that literally overlooked the construction was going to be while construction was going on. So I said, either you pack up quickly and we get it done now, or you wait until more of the structures are actually built and we're doing it a little bit longer term, because it's in that middle, that question mark where it's very real, it's very happening, but we can't quite understand what it's going to look at. I think that's when we see the negative impact on it. And so I think that, yes, it could have some impact, especially on those buildings that look at it. But I think long term, it's going to be a good thing for the city.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's a general question anyway. Like in anywhere downtown, it's parking lots are always fair game,
right?
And so even when you're buying a condo, even more inland, and you're like, all right, there's like, you have a beautiful view right now. What do you say to those people?
So I remember when I was newer in this industry, I probably had been in the industry for about a year. And I was doing my due diligence, and my client was interested in a building, and there was a parking lot to the east of it. And it wasn't a big parking lot, but I called up the Department of Zoning, and I got a lovely woman to get on the phone with me. And I said, hi, my name's Amanda McMillan. I'm trying to get a little bit of insight on this lot here. Can you tell me what can be built? Can you tell me if there's any applications on it? Can you give me any insight? And I think she was laughing at me. She basically said, sweetheart.
Oh, she was the sweetheart.
Okay. She goes, sweetheart, if it's a parking lot in downtown Chicago, it may not be built today. It may not be built tomorrow. But at some point, that property is going to be built, and that is the best advice I can give you.
Yes.
So absolutely, it's definitely something in consideration.
Yeah.
Anytime you see some vacant property, now once again, we know that, depending on the size of the lot, what they can build and those types of things, but it's always fair game and always something that you have to take in the back of your mind.
My last place in River North literally looked over this little parking lot, and they built a 10-story building right there. And it was tiny. You would never expect it, but it happens.
Hopefully you were on the 11th floor.
I wasn't, but I was on the second, so I didn't have a view anyway.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a big deal for me, but but you're just like, that is a tiny lot.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Okay, here's another doozy. Man, they're getting us with the good stuff today.
Yes, what's going on with interest rates right now?
What's going on with interest rates? It's been a wild ride. In the past couple of weeks, we've seen interest rates get hit. Interest rates have definitely gone up. It's definitely putting an impact on our market. And our expectation is that at the next couple of Fed meetings, they have indicated that we are going to see possibly some more rises. Now, we've talked before what the Fed does, and our interest rates isn't always the same. Just because they're now talking about it, that could have been part of the rise that we just saw. But it is definitely a concern.
But they did take a pause this last meeting, which
Yes.
was great. But now they're saying, hey, we need a...
Yes. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of good things going on with it. The talks on inflation have been much more positive overall. They've seen a lot of success. Those are all good signs, but we're not exactly where we need to be yet. And therefore, the Fed is making the adjustments that they need to get us there.
Yeah.
Long term, though, long term, all of our major economists, as Samuel and I always say, like, we're smart enough to follow really smart people, right?
Yes.
That's what we do, because we can't lock ourselves in the room all day and study this stuff. But pretty much all of the major economists are saying, hey, look, we're in a little bit of a bumpy ride right now, but the longer term projections all remain very, very positive and very strong. Now, what are you seeing that this recent rate increase is kind of hitting the market a little bit?
So I think it's just like creating a little bit of a pause in some buyers, but I honestly still don't think it's doing a ton for our clients. I mean, they're just, again, all of our clients right now are very kind of used to it. So,
Right.
but I mean,
I'm touching the hot stove over and over again. It's no longer hot.
yeah, exactly. So like we're almost like desensitized to it. And honestly, the rate jump that we just had, it wasn't that drastic. It's not like last year where we had a 4% increase within a year. It's all right. We're another quarter of a point higher.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ultimately, if you still need a house, you have to move, and that's the decision you make. But the other thing is rents have gotten so absorbently high that it is making sense for us to still purchase. And so it's those conversations that we kind of have. And if you're ready to purchase, do it now. I mean, it makes sense. And then just refinance, because the interest rates will eventually hopefully come down. But if they don't, then you locked in at a better rate, right?
Yeah, no, for certain. And it's funny, what we're seeing is that we are seeing a little bit of that intensity of the market shift.
Yeah.
And obviously we saw it all happen in the last couple of weeks. Is that the effect of summertime? Is that the effect of the rates? These are things that we always say, right? I'm coined for saying the market is going to breathe differently now, right? Yes. We expect that. It's just kind of wondering what is the catalyst on it. But I think you're very correct. Most of the people that we're working with right now on a buy side, these aren't the people that had 3 and 4% dangled in front of them. Yeah. These are people that have gotten into the market, within even the last year, right? They've been 6% and above. Mm-hmm. So no, they don't like to see it, but you're right. It's not the startled effect of what we saw last year in terms of what we're seeing. So I think that, as we said, rates are in a little bit of a turbulent time right now, but we're seeing a lot of our clients, and I think that this could be an interesting point. We advise a lot in this, right? Because things are a little turbulent, because there's a little bit of that pause because of the rates, we're the people that are explaining to clients, lock in that property right now. Yeah. Well, most of the other buyers are hesitant because you can actually negotiate, right? We haven't really negotiated much for the first half of the year. The negotiation was, okay, there's 3 other offers, there's 10 other offers. How do we get to a good spot? Now we're negotiating. We've got clients that are doing better under the understanding that they're paying a little bit of a premium while other people, in terms of the interest rate, while other people are hesitant. Yeah. And these are going to be the people that when the interest rates go down, they're going to refinance and they're going to have the great property at a great price and a good interest rate at one point.
Yeah. I mean, what was it this weekend? I actually took another client out and he's been looking for 2 years. So he did have the carrot.
That's hard. That's hard.
But I think also he was just like, you know what? I missed out on that opportunity. And now he's seeing like the cost that he is associated with it. And he's like, if it goes up more, I'm just gonna it makes sense for me to just do it now.
Sure.
Like, it's not scaring people.
No, absolutely. But, and part of that is, as we talked about, is so much of how we explain things to people, right? Yeah. So anyways, it was a good one. Okay. Here's a fun one. Your favorite summer dish?
Well, my favorite summer dish is more like a liquid diet. I actually prefer a Kim Crawford. So
I don't know what a Kim Crawford is. I
know Kim Crawford is a white.
Oh, the
Sauvignon
wine.
It's a Sauvignon Blanc.
Got it.
It's so good, especially in the summer.
You mean a literal drink?
A literal.
You're on a liquid diet.
Liquid diet. No.
Okay.
I'm a griller. Like, that for me is always the biggest thing. So I grill probably almost every night.
Okay.
And so
what do you like to grill?
Steaks. I'm a red meat connoisseur.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't become like a Clydesdale by eating just carrots.
I don't think many people are going to relate you to a Clydesdale, Samuel.
Big and strong.
Big and strong. Anyways.
What's yours?
I'm very typical. I'd say corn and watermelon, hands down. Any way you can make it. Grilled corn is one of my absolute favorites. Watermelon, right, normal, straight. Watermelon salad, watermelon salsa. I love both of those.
Ooh, okay.
Right? So those are easy ones for me. I'm not on a list.
That's why you're never going to be a Clydesdale. We love horse
I
references.
love red meat. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I love red meat. We do, I don't know, sorry, you and I have talked about it maybe. We do a butcher box.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Where they actually send the meat to us I think twice a month. Fantastic, really good quality. It was one of those things that started in COVID and we just got really used to it. And the quality of the meat is fantastic.
Yeah, you have mentioned that before.
So I like my meat.
Good.
What do we have next?
What is a special assessment and how does it impact buying and selling? So I guess like special assessments, let's talk about it in two ways. One is in a low-rise building because we do run into those pretty frequently, but I feel like we handle those differently than a high-rise.
Sure. And
being more in a downtown market.
So special assessments, in my opinion, is a very taboo topic, right? I think a lot of people are very fearful of it, partly because it's scary, but partly because of a lack of understanding. We talk about it all the time. You know, in our opinion, special assessments, as long as they're planned and accounted for, they're typically taking care of the building. They're improving the building. But when they're not planned, or more of a, whoops, we didn't do things right, that's when they get really problematic. So it's something that obviously this is going to be related to condos. A special assessment on its most basic level is when a condo building needs to implement a secondary payment outside of the monthly reserves to do a specific project or to replenish reserves after a specific project. We typically see it more often with bigger stuff. Now, once again, the size of the condo has a lot to do with it. Our smaller buildings, right? Our smaller, more intimate buildings are, I don't know, your 3 units, 6 units, 8 units, 20 units, kind of smaller buildings. These are buildings in general that tend to run a little bit leaner, as we say, right? They've got nice small monthly assessments, $150 to $350 on average. They tend to budget for what they actually need to pay for as they go through.
Like their operation.
Totally. But they don't do too much in terms of really saying like, hey, we need a new roof, we need to seal a building, we need masonry work, or they might have some put aside for it, but those are bigger projects. And so when those bigger projects come along, the really, really good buildings are the ones that are planning, saying, hey guys, in the next 3 years, we're gonna have to do this. Let's start putting $100 away a month or something like that. But most of them have to have a secondary payment. Now, I usually relate those smaller buildings, and not all of them, but most of them, to almost the idea of owning a single family home, right? If you own a single family home and you need to put a new roof on, well, then you're going to pay for a new roof from that perspective, and then you have a more valuable building at the end. But once again, it's that, do we know about it? Are we aware of it? Are we planning for it? Or is all of a sudden, hey guys, we got a really big rainstorm and we were just told that we need a new roof and now we're into damage control? Versus it's a little bit different when we look at some of the bigger buildings, like in downtown.
Well, the bigger buildings downtown, I think, just do it differently because you do have a little bit of a higher assessment, and so you're expecting, and you have a property manager, right? So you're expecting them to be planning for all of this stuff,
right?
Whereas a smaller building, you're right, they run leaner, so we know just instinctively that when things come up, you're going to have to pay for that. Yeah, and you typically split it with all the other people. It's the big shockers of downtown where you're like
paying $1,000 a month.
Yeah, but I think like in the smaller buildings, your special assessments aren't as large, right? So like a roof is going to cost you 10 grand. All right, well, if you divide that by 3, that's like $3,000. In a bigger building, they're not going to just charge you a $3,000 special assessment. That doesn't make sense, right? So they always charge. They're going to wait for a bigger project, and then overdo it so that
they can replenish some of
the reserves. They have all that, like all just the stuff ready for it. And so that's where you start seeing the
$30,000 new windows,
$50,000. And that is for a lot of people almost like a second mortgage. And so that's where the hard part with the fear comes in. Yeah. Because we've had those happen before.
So then taking this to the next point, how does this impact our clients that are buying and selling? Let's kind of first take from our seller's perspective and say, if the building that they are selling in has a special assessment in it, what do we need to do? What do we need to be thinking about from that perspective?
Strategy is always key. The unknown is sometimes the really hard part. So we've literally had, well, I had 2 listings within the last year that had special assessments that were coming up, but we don't know the extent of it. We don't know everything like that. So that's the hard part. But the best part about that, and the best part about that strategy, is you just let the buyer know what they are expecting, and they take on the risk a little bit more. I find that's always a little bit easier.
Sure.
Because you can kind of like pitch it like, hey, you're the one who's going to benefit from it.
Playing devil's advocate,
On the buy side.
but it's also hard to get those buyers confident to say, hey, there's something coming up. We don't
True.
know where it is. So sometimes it takes us
A little bit
putting
more
some money
finesse.
aside
Yeah.
for a period of time and navigating that.
Yeah, and we can always do like an escrow and say, hey, like we'll set aside, $5,000 out of our proceeds for the next 6 months or the next year.
Well, they determine more on this.
Yeah, and get a little bit more information on it.
Yeah.
But I've found success in that with 2 of our listings, so I'm happy with that. But
what about, so then the other complication that both you and I have run into on this is that sometimes the special assessment can cause issues with the financing on our listings, right? The lenders don't like special assessments.
well, it depends on what the special assessment is for.
Yes.
Right. So like a lot of it is right now what we're running into, and then thank you, Miami. That building that fell down in Miami and killed all those people. Well, who has the biggest pockets, right?
Right.
It's not the homeowners. It's not the association. It's going to be Fannie and Freddie. It's the big lenders. And so those are the people who got sued. And so that naturally is going to shift our... It's tightening up our items. And unfortunately, that does have an effect.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on like what they're doing. So we do have to kind of talk about it.
But I would say what I've noticed, and I don't know if you've seen differently, is that, so it used to be, right? We go back 5-10 years. If there was a special assessment in the building, the lenders were all like, no, we don't want to lend in there. There's too much risk, red tape, all of that. Now I feel like most often we can navigate it. Most often they can get the information that they need to navigate. And sometimes it's how questionnaires are answered and how the association is going to do things. So it takes a lot of strategy, as you said, and a lot of delicate finesse to navigate those waters on both the buying and the selling side, because the lenders can have some issues if it's not presented properly.
Yes.
So,
and the other thing about special assessments is it has to be paid off by most lenders. So you can't, for a buyer, you cannot get financing for it unless it's already
levied.
If it's levied and you're paying the monthly, you can't assume that monthly payment a lot of the time. So
It depends on how it's structured.
Yeah.
And some of that, and that's where it's so, there's so many different complexities of it. Is it a special assessment in discussion?
Yeah.
Is it in a research phase? Has it been levied? Is it actively going? Has the work been done? Has anything completed, or is the work still outstanding? And is there a possibility of further growth of the project?
Yeah.
Like, those are all really important questions to come back on. So what about for our buyers? We sell a lot of buyers into condos. How do we make sure that our buyers are in good positions in condo buildings with regards to special assessments?
So unfortunately, we can't always predict what is going on, but we can try the best that we can. So we get all the condo docs. So we get a 22.1 disclosure, which is every single condo in the state of Illinois has to accompany it. That gives us kind of like a full run over, right? So they say 2 years of capital improvements, what have they done in the last 2 years? So we can kind of build a story timeline of what they've done in the past and what they're going to do in the future. Again, it's never... We don't have a crystal ball, so unfortunately I can't always say it, but we can do our due diligence. We can look at the meeting minutes. We can say, based on board meetings, what are they talking about? Are they starting to research things? Are they replacing certain things?
I mean, the one thing that I would say is that I think that we do a lot of investigative work in that, right? So depending on the building is going to depend on how much information they have. We do get the 22.1, as you said. We do get meeting minutes if they exist. We follow up with all sorts of questions on all these things. We review the budgets, we review the rules and regs, we review all these things. And that if we still have question marks when we're done, then we approach the association, right? We get that information. And sometimes, right, especially when you've got an attorney and a seller and everybody else in between, Sometimes then we have to say, hey, can we get on the phone with somebody from the association or the management? Can we have a conversation so we can hear from somebody outside of the transaction?
Yep.
What is going on? What is the thought process? How everyone feels about it? Just so that I always say that sometimes that gives us the most amount of confidence in where things are at, especially with other people in the building that would be in a similar situation to our seller.
Yeah.
Now, as you said, sometimes we do all the due diligence in the world, and sometimes we still get sucker punched. I had one last year, which we exhausted all of our due diligence, time and time again, calls, meetings, everything. We got so much information. And then literally 3 weeks after the clients moved in, there was an emergency special assessment that was called for something that had happened somehow. And it was pretty contentious because there were 3 units that turned over this in the
That
6
year.
months
Yeah,
before.
I
And
remember
all
this
3 groups were like, what just happened? So things happen. Owning homes have, whether you buy a single family,
Yeah.
a condo, a townhome, whatever it is, things can happen. But I'd like to think that we have a fairly strong record because we are so exhaustive in our efforts to make sure that everybody's in a good position.
We're very exhaustive. When it
Exhausting or exhaustive?
No, exhaustive when it comes to researching. I think
Totally.
sometimes
They don't like us on the
Sometimes
other
the other
side.
side is just like, what are you guys doing? Can we just close this out? We're like, no, we're just getting information.
Yeah. No, it's
Shenanigans.
I like to think we're pretty likable.
Yeah, I mean, we're likable, but sometimes we can be a little much.
Anyways, here's kind of a fun one.
Yeah.
House luxuries that you're seeing that you would love to have or you just love in general. Kind of new fun stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually will jump in because I
But
saw
you-
something that I didn't even know existed.
Oh.
I knew it existed, but I didn't hear about the implementation of it into luxury properties.
Yeah.
Cryo tubs.
Oh, yes.
So I heard of a builder that was providing an option. You can now get a pedestal tub in a primary bath or in any bath that actually has the ability to instant cryo, so that rather than going to wherever you go or having them in your backyard or whatever it is, you can actually have a cryo tub installed into your house. Now, the catch is that they are ridiculously expensive at this point in time. My understanding is that it's somewhere in a $12,000 to $15,000 range just for the tub before you install it. I don't like cold enough to go to that length for it. But
Oh, it's so good.
everyone tells me it, and I'm
It's
just
so good, especially like athletics. Like it's so good for recovery.
I'm sure.
Oh
I'm
my
sure
God,
my knees and my hips would be amazing.
My workouts after a cryo is just insane.
Yeah. So you can get a cryo
Yes. Okay, cool.
a cryo tub in your home.
Yes, we actually have the ice bath at East Bank Club.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what you should do. That would be my luxury. If you could have an ice machine in your bathtub, instead of in your fridge, just be like, I'm gonna.
You heard it here, people. An ice machine next to your tub. You hit a button and it fills up.
Yeah, like actually, wouldn't that be great?
I don't see the value.
I mean, you don't like cold, so.
I don't like cold.
But
What are some other fun things? Like, to me, we've seen saunas for years. Every sauna that I sell tends to be a storage room.
yeah, they never.
People
use
don't
it,
use them.
ever.
From that perspective. So that's something that I don't see as much. Although, what I do think is pretty interesting right now, and this is kind of a post-COVID trend, what people are doing to their outdoor spaces.
Yeah.
Like that we're seeing is that you're getting true outdoor living in terms of an outdoor kitchen, outdoor living room, TVs outside.
Yeah.
The whole works. Like people are taking the indoor living outdoor. So I'd say that's a really big push in a luxury trend that I'm seeing as well.
I guess like luxury trends would be depending on price point, right? So
Sure.
I mean, like that's high end ultra people, but
Absolutely.
honestly, like what about our like $500,000 clients?
Absolutely.
What are you seeing with them?
What am I seeing with them? One of the big luxury items that I see, and I think it absolutely depends on the space. And I used to think that this was frivolous, but the more I see it, the more I like it. I would say electronic window treatments, especially in certain places.
Thank you. Yes, actually, I find that too.
Sometimes it seems like, in certain types of windows and certain types of properties, not much. But if you have floor to ceiling windows and you're on a corner and you can hit a button and everything, you could see your view that you probably paid for. To me, that is an amazing luxury.
Yes, I have floor to ceiling windows. I would kill to have electric windows.
Do you consider do this or do
I
you just not
literally-
shut them?
Well, I never shut them.
Okay.
I'm fine walking around naked and letting everyone see. Nobody actually looks into my unit, so I look over like. an
Except for
empty
the guy with the
field.
telescope.
No, there's no telescopes. I look over like a townhome complex, so
Yes.
it's fine.
So they're looking up with the telescope.
I mean, if they are, good for them. I give them a little show. But
I don't disagree. What are you seeing in that price point that would be considered a little bit more of a luxury item?
I always find like radiant floors, like outdoor space. Again, having outdoor space, I think is always really key.
Anyways, I think we got through it. That's a wrap. Great questions today. Just as a reminder, we are always looking for more content, always looking for more questions. Keep them coming. We really enjoy getting them. We're having a blast doing this. Hopefully people are getting great content on it. If you're liking what we're doing, hopefully you're telling your friends, family, any random stranger on the street that would listen.
Yep.
Share our podcast.
Yeah. And subscribe.
Subscribe. We are
That's the big thing.
absolutely. Anyways, until next time, Chicago.
Until next time, Chicago.